I am Sharon Sultana, and I am the Senior Curator of the National Museum of Archaeology in Malta. The organization I come from is Heritage Malta, which is basically the government agency for all cultural sites in Malta. For us, it's a first that artifacts from Malta traveled to America. Now, this artifact here is what we call the Venus of Malta. What you are looking at here is a 5,000-year-old statue. It's made of terracotta. The temple period dates to 3,600 BC. So when you look at it and you imagine that the people at the time had no real resources, it was just, like their manual resources, hands, there's no metal at the time, so sculpting an artifact of like this was quite a masterpiece. And it also shows how aware they were of the anatomy. A closer look at the back of it, you can even see the shoulder blades. It's one of the masterpieces we have in the museum. We do not usually loan it out for exhibitions outside the museum when the museum is open to the public. But since this exhibition was all about temples and the temple period, and it was going to be held in America, a place where we had never exhibited before, we decided to have a few exceptions. This artifact over here for me is the most important artifact because it shows two people embracing each other. It's really sweet and it's really well made. If you look at it closely, you can see the incisions for the hair. So when I see this, it just takes me back to the image we have of prehistoric people. When school children come to the museum and I ask them, what do you think these prehistoric people were like? And they will say, like, savages, killing animals, that's the image we have. But when you see something of the sort, it just reminds us of people, like we are today, with emotions we have today, with the same needs we have today, but they just had different resources. It brings out the emotional part of these people. We're talking, about 5,000-year-old people, but people nonetheless. Something big was happening on the islands during the temple period. So that's the period between 3,600 BC up till 2,500 BC. We have too many temples for the population of Malta at the time, which we estimated to be around 10,000 people. So we do think it served like a hub of some sort, people coming over and carrying some sort of ritual in the temples. But obviously we are talking about the prehistoric period, so we have no written evidence. We can just hypothesize on what we think could have gone on. We are very careful what to speculate upon and what to hypothesize because there are a number of theories. At one point there was a theory that these temples were built by aliens because how could people, just with no machinery build such monumental buildings? Some of the stones weigh 20 tons, so it's, quite a feat. We do have evidence of burn marks in the temples, and a lot of animal bones were found inside the temples. So we do think that, for example, animal sacrifice could have taken place. One of the artifacts we have here is an animal frieze, which is carved out of stone and showing a procession of animals. So that too gives an indication of some sort of animal sacrifice taking place in the temples. There's nothing outside Malta which is similar to these megalithic structures in their complexity. There are stone circles in France, for example, and for example Stonehenge, which is 1,000 years more recent than this. So our temples are 1,000 years older than Stonehenge. But none of them are as complex as the temples we have in Malta. I think the artifacts are quite fascinating, and I think that with the limited resources that they had at the time, they basically did a great job. And they left us with a legacy which we will obviously cherish forever, and which we are taking care of and conserving for our children's children, basically.